So we're going to get going with some scrambled eggs here. You'll notice I have the upper left corner blurred out just because my family's in the living room and they don't need to be on YouTube. So I'm just starting with some butter here. I don't know, it's like half a tablespoon or so of butter. This will be lunch for the four of us, so the portion size will be relatively large. I had to cut some out because my son came over. But I'm just tossing in some diced up frozen peppers that we bought from, wherever. I think this bag's from Whole Foods or something like that. Usually we actually like the ones from Trader Joe's, like the fire roasted pepper and onions. We just keep a bag of those in the freezer at like all times for throwing in eggs because it's a good way to just get some extra veggies and things. Just a pinch of salt to help bring out some of the moisture and help them brown, and for flavor, obviously. So I'm just gonna mix these up. I think right now I'm over you can see I just bumped up the heat. I was probably on medium, and now I'm on medium high. So normally I would do this over the sink, but my video capabilities are somewhat limited, so I'm just doing this in a bowl and dropping everything into a quart jar. I like using the quart jar for this just because I think it's easy to mix them up, and we have a million of them, and I think I'm going to do 10 eggs here for the four of us, so it's easy to just mix it up like a huge batch of eggs all at once. So I'm just cracking these and throwing the shells in the sink, and then I'll put those in the compost for later. I'm going to try something here where usually I don't salt the eggs, but right now I'm going to salt the eggs before I cook them, well before. I have bacon in the oven right now, which probably has another 15-20 minutes to go, probably 15. But you'll see me salt these eggs with a teaspoon of salt now, just to try to see what that does. Usually I don't salt until the end, and it might be hard to tell in the video, but these definitely were a little more solid. I think salting before maybe brings the egg together more and coagulates the proteins a bit more. Whereas when I don't salt, they end up a bit creamier, which I actually prefer. So I probably won't salt before next time, but them being together a little bit more did make it easier for my kids to eat them. So I don't know. Kind of gotta play it between those. I had a little bit of egg in the bottom of that bowl. I'm just scraping it in. So, yeah, I would say I'm just beating this together with a fork. I'm not going crazy here, just trying to, break up the yolks and get it pretty homogeneous. Our sink's right behind us. You'll see it in a later shot. So now I'm just gonna put the salt in. Again, don't know if I'll do that in the future, but we'll see. So I'm just speeding this up to get through all this because this isn't super interesting. But now, so these peppers are done. They got a little bit of color on them, but not a ton. I'm not trying to get a ton of color there. Just really trying to warm them up. So now that's off, and I'm just gonna leave that sit there until I'm ready to go for the eggs. So this is the bacon I cooked. This was a huge tray of bacon where I kind of snuck it all on there, but I'm just flipping it over. It's been in the oven for 10 minutes or something like that, and I'm just gonna give it a flip and pop it back in for another 10 minutes or whatever. So you can see I switched the camera angle here to the other side. You can hear my kids in the background. So I'm just pulling that bacon out, and I'm just moving it to a plate lined with a paper towel, just to get some of the excess grease off. Although honestly, when you see how much of the bacon fat goes in the eggs, you'll probably wonder why I even worried about how much fat was on the bacon. So I'm just moving that over, and then you'll see me dump in all the bacon fat into this pan, which is way too much bacon fat. Like, you should not use this much fat. This is like the 100th time I've made these, and I was just like, I'm gonna see what happens if I dump all this in. And what happened is the eggs like pretty greasy. Generally, I do about a tablespoon of fat per 2 eggs. So I mean, so I should be using about 5 tablespoons of fat, and I'm using way more than that. Also, usually I use a combination of butter and bacon fat, because the butter works out better because it's cold, and so it helps emulsify into the eggs a bit more, and so they become more of a cohesive unit than kind of being separate eggs and fat. So usually for something like this, I would do like 2 tablespoons of bacon fat and like 3 tablespoons of cold butter, just cut up into big chunks, throw it in the pan, start heating it up. And then once it's like warm, it's not hot, I'm just heating this up over like medium. I think you'll see me turn it up to medium high. So I'm just using this little silicone spatula to just do little circles in the pan, going around in a larger circle. So this is a 12-inch pan, and this is a smaller burner, like maybe an 8-inch burner. So you can see me there. I'm turning it up to medium high now. And so the way this is working is the inside of the pan is very hot, but the outside of the pan is still cold. So I'm able to stir the eggs really quickly in the middle where they're solidifying into curds, and like kind of push them to the outside. And it's just generally, it's kind of like, you're cooking it really hot, but not really, because of, it's such a small area of the pan that's hot. And then you'll see me like, here I'm like pulling in some from the outside and trying to mix it together. It also stuck a little bit more on the bottom than I'm used to. I'm working on the seasoning for this pan, so it's just not quite there yet. But this is like a 12-inch carbon steel pan. You could just use like a 12-inch nonstick, or if you were going to do like fewer eggs, if you're only making this for 1 or 2 people, you could just use like an 8-inch pan. But you'll have to keep pulling it off and on the heat. So I'd do it like on like medium high heat, stir for 30 seconds, pull it off, keep stirring for 30 seconds, and then just keep moving it on and off the heat until you start to see it set. You can see it's really setting now. So at some point, once it gets like mostly set, you can see it right there. It's mostly set, so I'm turning it down to like medium low, and then it really, starts to get drier and drier. Most of that fat has emulsified in, but like I said, not all of it, because it was just way too much. And I'm assuming I probably should have turned it off about right here. I was probably a little late. Probably should have done that like 5, maybe 10 seconds earlier, because it'll keep cooking in the pan as you're going. I'm just stirring it up, breaking up the curds now. Just kind of getting it to the texture that I want. This was probably a little more done. Again, I don't know if that was the salt or not, but it turned out pretty well. And then here I'm just taking a couple tablespoons of sour cream and putting it in cold, and then mixing that in, which also helps stop the cooking, and also just, it's sour cream, so it's delicious. But that's pretty much it. The egg's already seasoned before. If I hadn't put that salt in, this is when I would put the salt in. right now, but I put it in early, so I don't need it. So this is our lunch, some bacon and eggs. Kids had hash browns, but hope you enjoyed it.